Most people, half of what they thought today is the same things they thought yesterday about themselves, about their life, about their business. That's why most people's lives don't change very much. But if you wake up and you start realizing, I'm living in a home, an emotional home I don't want, you can change it. See, because everybody's got it. If you got $1 billion, check this out. You had $1 billion, but the habitual emotions you go back to are frustrated, pissed off, then your life is called frustrated and pissed off. It doesn't matter how much money you have. Write this down, please. The quality of my life is the quality of my habitual emotions. The quality of my entire life is nothing but the quality of my habitual emotions. Whatever habits of emotion, wherever my emotional home is, I will find a way to get back there. And until I change that, I'm gonna have a problem. How many of you see people in some part of the world, in my country, for example, you'll see this in the middle of America where there's certain places that have cyclones all the time. Or maybe down in New Orleans or places where every few years you get a huge storm that wipes out everybody right on the coast there. But then 2 years later, it happens again. They rebuild, it happens again. How many have ever thought to yourself, why don't these people move? Why don't they move, guys? Because it's what they're conditioned. They call that home. I don't want to leave my home. It's what I know. It's easy to see when it's somebody else and it's physical. It's harder to see when it's yourself and it's emotional, because we have an emotional home. Some of you grew up in a really tough environment. I did too. Pretty brutal environment. Very painful environment. Part of I am who I am is because I didn't want to suffer. I had to find answers. And because I suffered so much, I don't want you to ever suffer if I can do anything about it. I can't control it, but I can help massively. But it's only because I suffered so much I don't want anybody else to. But think about it. Most people suffer even when they're successful. Listen, if you're successful and you're not fulfilled, that's the ultimate failure. If you got people that love you and you're not feeling joyous and alive, something's wrong. And you know what it is? You got an old home you're used to. Maybe the home you're used to is not a very happy home. It's a home of worry, a home of frustration, a home of anger, a home of feeling everything's unjust. And so you find a way to get back home using whatever the environment you can use. How many of you know somebody who's always pissed off about something? How many of you know somebody who is always worried? How many of you know somebody who's not really funny? They think they are? And they crack themselves up telling stupid jokes. How many know someone like this who cracks themselves up and they laugh so much that even though it's not funny, you find yourself laughing too? These people have different emotional homes. Some people's home is anger. They'll always find something to be angry about. It's what they're used to. It's their conditioning. So even when the storm comes in and messes up their life, they go right back to that same shit. Wouldn't it be nice to upgrade your home, your emotional home where you live? What if you could live every day with the vast majority of the emotions you had for joy and gratitude and love and appreciation, even in the middle of COVID, even when somebody does something unjust, compassion, playfulness? What would that feel like if you were in those states every day, 90-95% of the time? When you weren't, you got out of it quick. You can make that change this weekend, and I'm not exaggerating an ounce. I'm not saying you're going to be perfect, never have a negative feeling, because negative feelings are sometimes a signal to make us change. But most people have a negative feeling and they just hang on to it, keep living with it, find other things to be negative about. They will never give you what you want. The money won't do it. The acknowledgement of others won't do it. Everything you think will do it will not do it. Only one thing will do it. You drawing a line in the sand and making the most important decision of your life. You're going to live in a beautiful state no matter what. Because life is too short to suffer. We have a choice. Listen to me. Pain is sometimes part of life, but suffering is a choice. But for most of us, not a choice, because we have the habit of suffering, being stressed, being worried, being frustrated, being pissed off. And because we're wired that way, that's the muscle we build. But if we rebuild our home here so it's even more magnificent, then you can have the life that you desire and deserve. And you can do it in one weekend only if you give your all and push enough energy out while you're doing it, while you're learning. Who's up for this here? So who's up for enhancing your home massively? Say aye. Say aye.
Most often is about what skill do I think is the most important as an entrepreneur? That's a really difficult question, but if I could go back and you could only give me one skill to begin with and I had to build from all of it, I can tell you for sure what it would be for me, and that would be the ability to influence. So it's the ability to persuade people. Without that skill set, the vast majority of my wealth does not exist. If you can't persuade people, if you can't influence people to make decisions that are in their own best interest, but that also grow your business, your brand, your company, your net worth, you can't ever become successful. One thing that everybody I know that's a leader in everything they do can do is persuade people. Now, I watch people do that in all different types of ways. Some do it through intimidation, some do it through force, some do it through humor, some do it through persuasive strategies, transfer of energy, you name it. But all leaders can persuade. All successful people can get people to make decisions in their own best interest that also get them to participate with their company. It's the number one skill that I see most people not spending the most time on, is their ability to communicate, their ability to persuade people. And because they're constantly trying to go to a different course, or they think that somehow if their product is good enough, or they get the right sales pitch, that somehow they're going to win. But the fact of the matter is, you've got to become a better persuader. I'm constantly, personally working on that skill and refining it. My ability to persuade from the stage, through the camera here, to get you to make the decisions that are in your own best interest, to persuade you that I can help you, to persuade my children. When I'm negotiating on buying a company or buying a car or buying a jet, it's my ability to persuade people to make the decision that's in their own best interest to participate with me. And
trying to prove people wrong or right about you is a cheap level of motivation, and it will wear out. In other words, it's not the lack of it, it's not the best type. People say, well, hey, Tom Brady, 6th-round draft pick, I mean, he's constantly trying to prove them that they picked the wrong guys. I know Tommy a little bit, and I can tell you, that motivates him, but if you think he's become the greatest football player of all time because he's trying to prove people from 20 years ago wrong about where he was drafted, you don't get elite performance. Tom Brady is where he is because he sets standards for himself and has massive goals and ambitions for himself, not to prove other people wrong. I promise you, when he's sitting under center in the Super Bowl, he's not going, I was a 6th-round draft pick. That's not what moves him.
Yeah.
And so I think it's low-level motivation. I do it too. And the sooner you drop, it's the symptom of the same disease.
Right.
So proving your family wrong or right is a symptom of the same disease, which is you are still obsessed with what other people are thinking about you and not doing things that make you happy, that enrich you, that fulfill your soul. And so the irony about spending your life worrying about what everybody else thinks about you, here's the irony, is that those people will never be thought about after they're dead. So they spend their life obsessing with everyone thinks about them, only to die and have no one ever remember them. Because people that are so obsessed with what other people think about them never really ever fulfill their potential. So once you can drop that addiction, whether it's friends, strangers, or your parents, and you begin to do things that fulfill you, that make you happy, that change other people's lives by your contribution, now you can be remembered. Now your life.
Today on Minute with Maxwell on the word sleep. Hi, my name is John. I don't require a lot of it, okay? And it's not because I'm special, it's just a DNA thing. Usually about 5 hours is what I need, and when I was younger, I could do a little less. In fact, I used to look at people sleeping 8 hours and say, gosh, what's wrong with them? Are they sick or something? Well, we all know sleep is really good for you. In fact, I cheat myself because I could probably, if I could sleep a little longer, I would probably be better, because all medical science tells you that how important, 7-8 hours of sleep is for each person. Well, when I use the word sleep on Minute with Maxwell, let's forget about our unconscious state of going to bed. What I want to say to you is, when you wake up. Don't sleep during the day. Don't get a little bit unconscious and let life pass you. Be intentional. Go for it. Be in the moment. Be alert. Be aware. Seize the time. We don't have much of it. I guess what I'm really saying is, when you're awake, stay awake. Then when you sleep, it's a little bit more legal.
So I have this thing that I've been promoting called No Whining Wednesdays. Wednesday, you cannot whine, complain, or criticize. And people are like, well, what is whining? Whatever you think it is, don't do it. And every time you do it, you have to put a quarter in a jar. Every one of them will cost you a quarter. Last week, I had people send me pictures of their jars of quarters. Oh my God. But what they said to me also was, this was wonderful, because I was never ever aware of how much whining and complaining and criticizing I do. Now I've got mothers doing it with their children. So Wednesday is no whining Wednesday. We need to practice that. We need to stop whining about what isn't happening, what we don't have, what we can't do, what somebody didn't do.
Quitting guarantees the failure. Once you quit, it rules out any chance of succeeding. The mere waking up every day, putting the next foot in front of the next foot, at least keeps you in the game. And if God is waking you up continually every morning, once God wakes you up, that's a sign from God that he ain't through with you yet. That he has something more for you in store that he hasn't given to you yet. That's why you wake up every day, because God has more for you. Now, all you gotta do is understand that, because look at this. The moment God is done, when you've served your purpose here, you won't wake up. But if you keep waking up, don't you understand that there's a higher purpose? Your goal in life is just to get into a relationship with God where you can understand the purpose. And it ain't gotta match nobody else's. You know, quit trying to be saved like everybody else. You gotta get saved for yourself. You know, people all the time, I get questioned as a Christian all the time. I can't believe you're a Christian, you cussing. Well, I'm a Christian that cuss. I'm still a Christian. I believe in God. What you want me to tell you? But if you knew who I used to be, you'd be perfectly fine with this occasional cussing that I'm doing now. You really would, if you knew the shit I really did.
Used to sound best to the person that's making them up. Because you grew up in a household with dysfunction, drama, mental, spiritual, physical, and emotional abuse. Doesn't mean that that's the outcome of what your life, your career is destined to be. Excuses sound best to the person that's making them up. There's pretty much nothing that you could say that you went through that I haven't went through, and I'm still here. Some of y'all may connect success to me being famous. There are people that are way more successful than me financially, success-wise, career-wise, and they're not famous at all. Excuses sound best to the person that's making them up. Stop feeling sorry for yourself. Get off the pity potty. Wake your ass up. Awaken the beast inside. Get in shape. Get off the pity potty. Stop looking for the new pity committees, running around telling everybody your sad and sob stories, trying to get people to show up to your pity parties and your pity parades. It's time to take shit to another level. It's game on. It's focus. It's go season. I believe in you. I love you. And if anybody tells you any different, they're just stroking your ego because they're desperate and they want something from you. And they're just allowing you to be some lazy, slouchy, bum-ass motherfucker. Yeah, I'm cursing. I'm using profanity because this is my timeline and I'm grown. I can do what the hell I want to do. I love you. I believe in you. It's time for you to take advantage of your America. Take advantage of the access and the resources that you have in your country and your community. You got a problem with your life, you got a problem with your environment, do something about it. Excuses sound best to the person that's making them up.